Welcome to Cash Talk, the podcast where we delve into the depths of finance, business, and life itself. I'm your host, John Cachia, a multi-award-winning wealth advisor with a passion for empowering ambitious Australians to confidently achieve financial freedom. Hey everyone, before we get started, this is a quick reminder that everything in this podcast is of a general nature and nothing has been tailored to your personal circumstances. So please seek personal financial advice before acting on this information. Welcome back to Cash Talk, and today I'm joined by Anthony. How are you, mate?
Good, how are you?
Yeah, not bad. I think I need to fix this microphone. I don't know what's going on. Some person's come in here and just mucked it around. But anyway, so start of the new year. What's planned for 2025 for Anthony?
Oh, not too much. I think it's a bit of a quiet year, 2025, getting ready for a wedding in 2026 in personal life, so nothing too crazy going on. And just it's the usual, getting through, getting some new clients, helping some new people achieve their goals.
Yeah, awesome, man. Awesome. Now, today we're going to do something a little bit different, actually. We're going to be answering some questions that we have got over a little bit of time, over the last few months, and we've just put them together. Now, obviously, we can't answer all the questions, so Anthony's going to read out a couple of questions, and we're going to kind of answer them today. But these are some really questions that we're hearing a lot as well too. So hopefully there's a few in there that you can kind of learn a little bit about the way that I approach things, the way that Anthony approached things, and maybe gives you some golden nuggets to take away. So, Anth, over to you, man.
Yeah, John, I'll let you answer this one, but the first question we've got here is, how do I know if I'm ready to see a financial advisor?
That's a good question, actually. So your situation might be different to the person next door or the person that you're talking to. So first thing I want you to think about is, do I want clarity over my financial future? So you need to make an assessment that right now, am I feeling stuck? Am I feeling maybe I have too many different options and I don't know which way to go? Because when you're seeing a financial advisor, especially like us at Thriving Wealth, it's around, you want structure to create the confidence and certainty of achieving the financial future you want. So that's first and foremost in regards to your mindset, in regards to I want clarity and I want structure to get to where I need to get to, but also that I want to be inevitably coached to get to where I need to get to. Because you're going to have to need to change your habits and your behaviors because you're not happy with the direction that you're currently going on. And this is the same as if you want to kind of get a personal trainer for your finances. You want to learn new techniques, but you also want to be kept accountable to achieving your goals. Now, financial resources as well. You can kind of pull the trigger a bit early sometimes or a bit late. So you want to get the timing right in regards to, do I have the financial resources to work with an advisor? Now, I'm going to put a caveat that there's many different financial advisors out there with very different businesses. But what we do with Thriving Wealth, it's all focused on having surplus cash flow to be able to facilitate your goals. So if you have $20 a week extra after you've paid from your income to your expenses and you've got $20 left over, what resources do you have to be able to pay off your debt quicker, pay off your invest into your financial future? So a big one we want to be looking at is, do you have the potential to have surplus cash flow to be allocating towards your financial future? Okay. Now, I want you to think about, if you don't, well, can I increase my income? Can I decrease my expenditure? What levers can I pull on to increase my cash flow to be able to do that? So if you don't, do I have the levers to be able to pull? Do I have the lack of clarity? Do I want the accountability and the coaching? And if you're feeling those symptoms, probably good time to see a financial advisor. The other one is, if you're time poor, you're time poor, you maybe have come into a windfall, or you've got a bucket of money that needs to be properly optimized and managed, and you don't have the know-how to be able to manage that and optimize things. See, when you accumulate large levels of wealth, there's really a risk of, am I doing things the right way? Am I going to lose my money? And this kind of scared approach in regards to, am I putting my money in the wrong baskets? Okay. Or the overconfidence bias that comes where you maybe think you know what you're doing, and that could be leading you into disaster. So many different situations where a person can see a financial advisor or needs to see a financial advisor or work with a financial advisor. But they're the most common ones that I see.
Yeah, beautiful. And I like the levers. There's always something that you can do. It's not like there's a definite yes or no. There's always the option to change things, which puts you in a position where you can see financial advice, which is good. Next question I got here is: we're spending $30,000 a year on private schooling for our kids. Would we be better off putting that money into an investment fund instead?
That's a great question. It's something that's in my kind of circle of friends, and we talk about this all the time, especially when they're seeing this, one, two, three children potentially go through private school, and they're like, could my money be better spent putting it into an investment? Now, that really goes to what you value. Education is a big investment in itself. Like, am I paying for my children to be academically smarter? What kind of networks does that kind of go into? What kind of communities can that go into? So the value needs to be an assessment based on what you value most. Now, I can say for me personally, I want to be making sure that, yes, they get a good education, but also can I be educating them as well in regards to life experience and also with my skill set in regards to how they manage money. So, I think you've got to look at what financial position is that putting you in. I see a lot of families putting themselves into debt or putting themselves financially in bad situations just to fund the private schooling education. And I just hope that you're not doing that just to have the status of I'm sending my kids to that private school education. I think you really need to sit down and say, this is for me, this is what I want for my kids. And if that is fine, then we have to work through the levers on what that needs to happen to make that happen. However, then in the investment side of things, I have taken the approach of a little bit of a balanced approach. So we have a religious-based schooling for our children, which is not the $30,000 figure. It's subsidised by the Catholic system. So, let's just call it in high school, it's half of that. But we are investing all the time. And I think it's not for me, I think investing for your children's financial future is important, but investing for your own financial future first is the most important. So like the aeroplane losing cabin pressure and the mask come down, put the mask on you first before you put it on your kids. That's the approach that you need to take. And that goes into spending on them and even in regards to education. I don't want people putting themselves financially in bad situations just for the funding of the private school education, because that may cause you to cause your kids to be financially supporting you later on.
Yeah, 100%. I think you raised some really good points there. And there's also skills that you can teach your kids that don't cost money. Like, there's a lot of things you can do at home, teaching them a lot of things that you don't need to be investing money into school fees for some of these things that you can actually teach them at home, which is also another thing that people can look to do if they wanted to help in other areas.
And I'm not saying that private schooling is not right. It's a very, very valid point in regards to sending it to private schooling. However, I don't think it's as simple as yes or no. There's a lot of variability in the conversation. Depends on what areas you're in, what is the public school offering, what's the religious-based school, if that is an option for you. So it's a serious decision. And the reason why I say that as well too is usually if you have multiple children, what you do for the first, you'll do for the other two.
Yeah.
So, and children may also be different. So there's all these different decision making, and we do help to unpack that decision making, and then obviously help people plan for those expenses as well.
Yeah, beautiful. The next one we got here is why do so many financial plans fail for people? How can I make sure mine don't?
Yeah, interesting. So when I say people's financial plans, well, saying that most financial plans fail, I would say it's very interesting for me to comment on that because I'm a little bit in a bubble, as in like that is not for me and the clients we advise. If I had to probably take a stab and say probably 5% fail at tops, but in general, the reason why most people financial plans fail, there's a few factors.
Or how about we rephrase this? So let's say, I'm sure you see other clients come from other, say, financial advisors. They've tried to do a financial plan themselves. Why does that not work for them?
All right. Yeah, that's a good one. So let's just take the person where they've come into us and said, listen, I've been doing it myself, and why has that been failing for them? Well, there's a few factors. So the reason why you're my financial advisor is the fact that I am emotionally connected to my own money. So as much as I want to try and stop myself from being emotionally connected to my money, it is my emotions that are sometimes driving my decision making. If I do not have someone that's a sounding board to say, hey, listen, I really, really want that new car, I can just go do that. I can either do it through my own money, I can do it through debt, I can make decisions. And most people are. So if you're using debt, which most people are, you're bringing your financial future, what you should have in your future, forward and making decisions. So they're making decisions without also the clarity. So they're making emotional and they're making without the understanding of the decisions they're making now of what that means in years to come.
Yeah.
Now, the other factor is there's just simply so much information that people need to hear. You know, should we be jumping on this stock? Should we be jumping on this investment? Should we? Mate, even this morning, I was getting text messages. Hey, look at this speculative stock. Should I jump in it? Like, we're constantly bombarded with all of these different strategies and solutions and products and blah, blah, blah. And coupled with the things that I just spoke about, lack of clarity and then no strategy, you just find yourself that these people are going through mazes, and when they're going through mazes, they're hitting dead ends, you know? And the other factor I think is, even if you've got the greatest motivation, you've got the greatest plan, if you don't have let's call it an accountability buddy, you don't usually have the drive. Like, I went to walk the river around close from my house, yeah? But I know that at 5 a.m. in the morning, there's someone waiting for me to come. I'm not going to let that person down, yeah? If you don't have that person that's going to be there at 5 a.m. in the morning, I'm really tired. I stayed up last night. I'll just sleep in another half an hour, yeah? So if you don't have that structure of the planning, the research, the proper strategy, the unemotional research and strategy, the planning and execution, the accountability, and then the ability to reflect and then change and adapt to life's uncertainties, you're setting yourself up for failure. And that is why most people fail, I would say, in general.
And I think the other one as well is things take time. I think a lot of people want to change the world overnight, but realistically, things take time, like planting these seeds to grow in the future. And maybe sometimes things start off a little bit slow for people when they expected things to happen straight away, but it's usually those ones that are patient and they put in the work and they wait. And then in a couple of years' time, they start to see those flowers growing is another one that people...
And you've hit the nail on the head, Ants. Like, you can have all the things I just spoke about, but if you're impatient, like a lot of my success personally, that's nearly 22 years in the making to be where I am today. Like,
doesn't happen overnight.
It doesn't happen overnight. I was speaking to a client I just recently about, like, you know, the greatest vineyards you could argue are in France and Italy. And when those vineyards have been around for like hundreds of years, but they're producing amazing fruit because they were planted and they were nurtured for years and years and years and years and years and years to come. So I think, patience, resilience, planning, execution, the removal of emotions, and then trying to create new behaviors and habits. There's a combination of a lot of things there. And if you think about it, if you're not going to someone who's got a trained eye and it's doing this day in, day out, the battle is very, very hard for financial success.
Yeah, 100%. All right, we've got another one here. I already have 2 investment properties. Should I buy a third through my SMSF?
Yeah, this has been the flavor of like the end of 2024 and, you know, hearing about a lot of it today. Like, I watch a bit of YouTube because I'm just learning a little bit about history lately, and like it just keeps coming up, like property booms, and just... Anyway, all right. Few things. One is, just for you to know, I studied financial risk management at university. My love in regards to finances is understanding how to manage risk. Okay, greatest investors of all time, Warren Buffett, Benjamin Graham. These guys are more around risk management, and even some of the greatest other investors are risk managers. So that question fundamentally for me goes down to risk. Few things. One, what assets does that person have outside of the property? So if you're going to buy another property, I'm increasing my diversification risk.
Yeah.
Then also property is inherently risky. If it's not a low risk investment, it's a high risk investment. It lacks liquidity. You can't sell a bathroom. Yeah, if you need funds. Okay?
Yeah, I have this conversation a lot. Like, you can't say, we want to start a family. Can we just pause our loan repayments for a year so we can take time off work. Like you don't have that flexibility with property.
Correct. And then when you look at the fundamentals of the actual asset as well too, from an income generation tool, it's a poor income generation tool. You buy the asset, you get the rental. After the rental, you got all of the taxes you need to pay, all the maintenance costs you need to pay, all the holding costs you need to pay. Then you're usually borrowing to buy into that asset. So every time you then borrow, you're then increasing the risk with gearing risk. Yeah. So you're leveraging. Every time you use leverage, it's like putting a magnifying glass on things. Now, I'm not here to say that all property is bad. However, if you're looking at all of those risks and you can't manage all of those risks, reduce all of those risks, why are you putting fuel onto the fire and adding more risk? Okay. And usually it goes down to property has done really well, so I should buy more of it. If you're chasing returns and not looking at the risk, this is where disaster is likely going to happen. Now, when we talk about the self-managed super fund, I also want people to be mindful is, yes, capital growth over years has been great in property. It doesn't mean it's going to be like that forever. However, superannuation is a retirement vehicle. I have seen more than not where people hold a lot of property inside their self-managed super fund, having to sell the property to then liquefy the assets to then provide income streams. Now, it can work really well if we've got a really diverse portfolio and we've got things structured the right way. However, in that situation and coupled with in totality, I think if you're just got a self-managed super fund with one asset class, there's just too much risk regardless of what it is.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks for that, John. Next one I've got here. Okay, I'm 25. Should I start contributing extra into my super fund?
Great question. For the 25-year-olds that are thinking about superannuation, kudos to you. I think the biggest thing that I just want to say is that you have to have a plan when you're doing all of this. And, you've got, just call it 35 years until you can access that superannuation at best. You want to be looking at it, but you want to be looking at your buckets. Yeah. So you want to be looking at your safety bucket, which is the money that I need in probably the next 3 years. Is that your wedding? Is that a house deposit? All of those things. Emergency funds.
Yeah.
Then also looking at, what after 3 years, from 3 to 30 years in this case, what funds do I need to access? Because what you don't want is, which I've seen in the past, people to contribute into super, but contribute too much, only to find out that they can't withdraw it.
Yeah.
Okay, and then find themselves cash flow really bad, or in situations where they've maybe had a kid to take off mat leave, but don't have the emergency funds that they need to call on. So look at it, but plan wisely, and consider it. So if you're not considering, so the flip side is if you're 25 and going, nah, don't worry about it. No, it's a really, 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 really good tax advantageous environment. Utilize it if you've got all the planning and the structures in play.
Yeah, I think I usually, when I have this conversation, there's three things I like to consider. Number one, you got to make sure there's certain caps that you need to make sure you're not exceeding when you're putting money into superannuation. So that's number one. Number two, you got to make sure, like you said, like if you're putting this money away long term, you're not going to be able to access that. Yes, there's great tax benefits, but you're locking that money up long term, making sure you're not going to need that because you're putting that money away for the next 30 odd years. So that's the other one. And then you got to weigh up the pros and cons because of the tax benefits. Like superannuation, as you said, great tax environment, but is the pros of that, like, yes, you're going to be saving money on tax, but is that more important than needing that money in the short term? So as long as those things all add up, that's something that obviously you need to consider, and it's going to be different for everyone, whether you're 25 or 35. It's something to consider for everyone, all those things before you make that decision.
Definitely some good considerations to take.
Alrighty, next one here is, what investment should I focus on first if I don't have any assets yet?
So if we're talking no assets at all, go back to the buckets.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, so go back to the buckets. So go about, okay, well, I need to build a safety bucket, an income bucket, and a growth bucket. Okay, my safety bucket, that's the money, emergency fund, short-term needs, money I need in the next 3 years. These assets are typically cash-orientated investments because you think about the importance of that money is usually really high. Therefore, with high importance, you need certainty and low risk. Focus on that. Same time, you need to plant seeds for fruitful trees in regards to your growth-related investments. These are typically properties and stocks, okay? Being able to apportion some of that income that you're pushing through into that long-term bucket, and then trying to get that tax-effective income from the kind of 3-year mark to start getting those returns in from the income up until the time when you need to touch those growth assets, which is usually 10 plus years away. So really focusing on those buckets from an actual asset class perspective, like I said, cash orientated in the short term. Long term is usually your shares and your property. And then usually in the income orientation, it's usually things like fixed income, can sometimes be blue chip stocks in regards to getting those incomes, but they are a little bit highly volatile. But trying to get tax effective income streams in that middle bucket as much as you can. So, and having a really good mix of risk adjusted investments to your situation.
Yeah, and the other thing that you need to consider is making sure that you've got a safety net buffer, because you don't want to be investing money and then needing to sell that money, sell that investment because you need that money for something. So number one first is making sure you've got that, like you said, that bucket of savings before you start investing. So if you need any short-term emergencies or anything like that, you've got the funds to call upon. That's really important. And at the end of the day, cash is an investment, so making sure that you've got money in the bank before you have a look to start investing is really important too.
Great tips. Great tips.
The next one here, and I think this is probably one where I'm good to answer because I haven't gone. This was not too long ago when I've done this. But how do you become a financial advisor? So this is actually a really interesting one because
how did I become one, or how did you become one?
Times have changed recently, and to be a financial advisor, it is actually very, very hard. There's a lot of things you need to do to be able to...
So you laughing because you think that I got in easy, or am I laughing because you think you got in easy?
I don't know. You can interpret that how you like. But to be a financial advisor these days, there is a lot of criteria you need to go through. And it really starts with, obviously, the first one is your university degree. Mm-hmm. So,
which is interesting, Anth, because it hasn't been a university degree for a long time. Like, it's something that came in a few years ago now. Yeah, but... a lot of people still think that it's a very easy way to become a financial advisor. Like, the university degree was a really, really good step because back in the day, it used to be just a diploma, and a diploma that used to be able to get in 2 weeks to be able to do that. Now, in 2006, I think it was, I literally could have just get my diploma and become a financial advisor, and I did get a diploma. However, I knew the writing on the wall because they were having murmurs about it, that I went to the university at the time to try and get a financial planning degree. There wasn't a financial planning degree. So I said, what do all the greatest investors do? And they do financial risk management. So I was one of the really, really early adopters of like a financial planning degree back when I started then. Yeah. So now become mandatory, and lucky I did it. Because when they gave the list of the approved degrees, so they're just not any degree, there's a list of ASIC approved degrees that you need to do to actually become an advisor. So you've done your degree, Ant, let's say.
Yeah.
And it has to be one on the list.
Approved degree.
What else?
After you do that, well, once you finish that degree, you've got to then start your professional year as a professional advisor. And what that is, it's basically like a training year where you're at your training wheels on, you're learning the ropes of being a financial advisor. You have 12 months of being supervised. You know, to record a logbook of everything that you're doing, making sure you're meeting certain hours in different areas.
And we're not talking about a couple of hours, are we? We're talking about hundreds.
This is like a full year of full-time work to be able to get this done. So let's say if you're part-time, it's probably taken you 2-3 years to be able to get that done on top of a 3 or 4 year uni degree. So as you can imagine, there's a lot of work to be done.
And your supervisor, like which I supervised Anthony, I've supervised a few people. It's also me being happy with what Anthony is doing in regards to first like the administrative side of the stuff, and then obviously the practical side in regards to how he answers client questions and queries and works with a client. And there might be times where I'm saying that, yes, you've done your professional year, but you're not ready yet. I want you to continue to progress, and I want to see some certain things get done, because even though it's a professional year, it's really me supervising, say, Anthony, and saying, yep, you're ready to go. I feel like you've got the capabilities to be able to provide someone advice on their financial future that's going to make an impact on their finances. And hopefully they've been trained the right way through the degree, through what we do in regards to our program, to be able to kind of allow them to make those great impactful experiences for our clients. So you can see how much I take it seriously to ensure that if something's coming out of their mouth or something's coming in writing to the client, that it's done in the right way and followed the right regulatory steps, but also as well to deliver transformative experiences. Now, Anthony, along that time, there's also an ethical exam that needs to be done, which is a pretty rigorous testing in regards to ethics. It's an intense exam. Not everyone passes. I think at one point there was like 60% pass rate, which is pretty epic. I've done it. All the advisors here have done it, which is I'm kind of glad it's over. But once you've done your year, let's say you've done your exam, you've done your education, it doesn't stop there, does it? There's always continuous learning. And then there's also the ability so along the way, you've got the continuous learning that you need to do, which is a certain amount of hours, which we call CPD, okay? You need to be doing your CPD at the same time. And then what happens is I will then, as the advisor, to become an advisor in our business, I will then sign off to say that this person's ready to become an advisor. Now, that person then gets registered on the ASIC Financial Advice Register. So a really, really important thing to do is if you're getting advice for anyone, make sure you go onto the Financial Advisor Register and check to see that their name's on there and they're registered. Not seized, they're registered. Now, the other thing as well too is just for you to know is that the word financial advisor and financial planner is ingrained in the Corporations Act as people who have gone through that process. There's some people out there that will call themselves financial advisors, and they do sometimes give our industry a bit of a bad rap because they haven't gone through that process. So be mindful if you're getting advice from an advisor that they've gone through all of those steps, they're registered on the ASIC register, and that they can provide you with advice to help you get to where you need to get to. But that's the way to become an advisor, and we're constantly learning because laws are always changing. So I started as an advisor in 2009. So, yeah, I continuously learn, and there's always new and amazing things to help clients manage. So, yeah.
And John, what happened to all those advisors that were advisors before all these changes? What needed to happen for them?
So they had a time period to get up to speed in regards to their education. We have seen the numbers go down from, I'm just going to take a stab in regards to the last numbers I saw. We've gone down from 28,000 advisors to about 15,000. So, a pretty large reduction, but there's some goods and some bads about that. There were some people that are obviously getting closer to retirement and they thought, what, stuff it, this is all too hard, I'm not going back to school. But it also weeded out a lot of the people who aren't serious in the profession as well too. So people that are licensed now, to go through all of that to just make a quick buck, they're not. They're in it to help people, which is really, really good.
Yeah, that's it. That's good. Alrighty, what other questions do we have here? How many questions do we have time for?
Oh, mate, one more for the crowd.
Alrighty. Let's leave this on a good one. All right. This is an interesting one.
Don't ask me personal questions.
Why should I pay life insurance premiums when I could invest that money instead?
Yeah, that's a interesting one for me to comment because it's a question I get often. It's a question that I kind of need to be very mindful about the way that I answer this. Now, the reason is as well too is that because I've been in the profession for a fair while, I have seen disasters happen to people's families by choosing not to have the adequate protection in play and therefore put them financially backwards or sometimes on their knees. Now, in Australia, we're very fortunate that when we say on their knees, there is a little bit of a safety net in Australia that we do have. However, paying for premiums, let's just put numbers around this. Let's say you're paying $200 a month in regards to your income protection insurance. And you're looking at that going, I'm paying too much, or you're paying $500, or you're paying $800, you're paying $1,000, whatever the number is, yeah? You might look at that and going, that is a waste of money. Now, first and foremost, I need you to know how you are psychologically wired. First and foremost, no one wants to pay for anything. There is not one client that says, I am happily wanting to pay more for my insurances or... No one wants to pay for things, okay? If they could have it for free, they would, but they value the peace of mind and the protection. So let's use $200. I grabbed that $200, and my alternative, like you said, was I invest that $200. Now, for the next 5 years, you might be thinking, I've done that move. That's awesome. I'm investing my $200 and I haven't paid for insurance, and look at my investment balance, okay? But the reality is that 5 years down the track, which you don't know, okay, we're not invisible. Let's say you're involved in or you're cleaning a gutter on your roof and you fall off the ladder and you break your back. that $200 a month times whatever it is, 5 years, how long is that going to last you? Now, one of my friends, groomsman at my wedding, he had his insurance policy for 2 months. I think it was, or even maybe a month it was. I'm going to go with 2 just for conservative numbers, yeah? He went and picked up a friend's dog, and when he went to go pick up the friend's dog, his femur in his leg snapped in half. Now, it's not from picking up a puppy, I can tell you right now. He had, not knowing to him, he had a degenerative condition in his bone. It weakened his bone, and then it snapped. Now, he got paid his income protection claim because he did answer all the questions in the application correct. He also was unaware of the condition. Even the doctors were unaware of the condition. So he did not have any disclosure issues, which some people sometimes think when I tell this story. His premium at best at that time was maybe $100 a month. Let's say $130 a month. So let's go with 2 months. Let's pay $260. That claim happened in 2011. We're in 2025 and he's still getting paid every single month until he's age 65 because it is a permanent incapacitation. So I'm very mindful when I answer that question, but what I am trying to get at is you don't know when you're going to need the insurances. 2, everyone insures the things that they can see. I got a new car, I'm getting insurance on it. I get a new house, I'm getting insurance on it. I've got jewelry, I'm insuring my jewelry. So things we can see, we insure.
And like on that, like car insurance, like a car's replaceable. You aren't. Like that's like when I have that conversation sometimes when people are unsure about if they should do it or not. Like you're paying $100, $200 a month for your car insurance, and that's going to cover a $50,000 car, but you've got a income protection policy that's an extra $100 a month that's going to cover $7,000 of income to 65, but you're not willing to do that. Like you just got to really think about it like that and then be like, oh, okay, like, wow, maybe I am doing that. And even like building insurance with the banks, like banks require you to have building insurance before they give you a loan. Like I'm surprised they don't make you have income protection or something in case you can't work and to pay your loan repayments.
Well, it's interesting. It's because they want to insure the asset that they're securing on. And I don't really care about the situation that you're in. So who cares about you? No one. Mm-hmm. You need to care about yourself. And your biggest important asset when it comes financially speaking is your ability to earn an income. Okay? Now, when we talk about that, it's the income if you're still living, injury or illness. And then if you die, especially if you've got dependents, what situation am I leaving them in if I lose my income? Income protection doesn't pay for that. That's where sometimes you need a life insurance policy to be able to kind of facilitate that. So investing rather than insurance premiums, I don't think it's a either like or conversation. It's a probably and. You need to be doing both. Yeah. And that's been great to share some of these questions. Thanks for jumping back on. For everyone who's watched or listened, thank you very much. Until next time, thank you very much. Cheers.
Thanks, guys. And if you have any questions, feel free to send them along so we can continue to answer them for you guys.
Thanks.
See ya.